So I think you guys hear me talk a lot about the CDM working group, and I think we actually haven't talked a lot about what the CDM working group actually does in a long time. I think we've just all I assume that everybody here knows, but we have a lot of new folks, which has been really exciting. So what we do, we actually exist to curate and maintain the OMOC Common Data Model, which then enables the community to develop standardized methods, software, and generate evidence that promotes better health decisions and better care. And you notice that last part directly quotes from the OHDSI mission, because it's really, I view us as like that, the bottom Lego brick, or the big plate, if you think about it, because I think everything in OHDSI, in my opinion, stems from the CDM working group, but I am a little biased. Next slide. So our objectives and key results this year. So what we want to do is we want to try to harmonize and understand the different work that's being done by the other working and interest groups. So what we're trying to do is we want to hear from different groups about what you guys are doing, maybe where you're stuck, or what you're working on in terms of either expanding the model or trying to expand the vocabulary. And the reason we're doing this is because we actually feel like having some fresh eyes to a question can be valuable, but also we've done this quite a few times, and so we feel like we can perhaps help groups and kind of point you in the right direction, so you don't go down one road and then end up in a place that perhaps we're not able to then bring back what you've done into the model or the vocabulary. So we want to conduct at least 10 meetings with a presentation from a working group or model expansion owner. And then we want to design a maturity model and repository for these CDM expansions. A good example of an expansion was the oncology tables that have since been incorporated into the CDM, as well as the NLP tables that have since been incorporated into the CDM. All right, I think we're good on CDM. Okay. You can switch to the next one if you want. All right, so then the next one I'm also leading is, we've changed the name a little bit from data quality to the data network quality working group, because we are now going to be doing two different things this year. We exist to develop the standardized data network and to recommend, enable, and develop best practices related to data quality. And it might be a no-brainer, but really the higher quality data in our network, the higher quality evidence we can generate and produce in support of our mission. Next slide. We have two different OKRs this year. One is to create an OHDSI data network, and I think that's pillar 2. Am I right? I think that's pillar 2. We talked about it a couple weeks ago, because we want to encourage network studies across interest and partners and promote data quality practices. And you can see our key results there. And you'll hear a little bit more about this as we continue with the Save Our Sisyphus Challenge. And then our second objective is going to be the continued support, maintenance, and develop of the data quality dashboard in relation to this data network initiative, because we really want to start to incorporate the quality metrics and results we get out of the data quality dashboard to help us better understand our data network and have confidence in our network and that evidence we're generating. Did I hit my mark on 6 minutes?
You almost did 3 minutes, but the two of them, so great job.
Perfect.
Okay, next up we have Jenny Lane.
Something a little bit different, potentially. So the Surgical and Perioperative Medicine Workgroup aims to focus on how we can generate better observational evidence surrounding surgery and perioperative interventions. And we are a winning combination of a general internist and an orthopedic surgeon, aiming to come from at the field from both sides of the clinical problem. So the brains of the operation are coming from Evan Minty, who is a general internist and assistant professor from Calgary in Canada, and the brawn is coming from myself, a clinical lecturer and trauma and orthopedic surgeon from London in the UK. And really, I want to tell you why surgery and perioperative medicine is really cool. The reason it's cool, and the reason you should come and join our work group, is because using observational data to better understand surgery and the perioperative period is the data science problem of our time. There's an ever-increasing number of surgeries occurring across the globe every year, and there are millions of people experiencing that time at risk. Where we can agree largely on an event or a surgery that occurred in the timeline, and we can then look at the temporary changes in physiology that connects them to the time at risk. And for those who are interested more in the vocab and phenotyping, there are underspecified boundaries for some conditions and events in this field that represent challenging problems for how we can better reflect them in observational data. So our aims for the year, or in general, are that we want to refine cohorts for the phenotype library. We want to improve vocab surrounding the procedures and to prioritise work in the field through collaborating with other groups and to undertake a variety of studies in the community. And then our OKRs for the year. This year, we aim to increase our membership and really aiming to bring together a varied group of people interested in the field of surgery and periop medicine. We're going to work on phenotyping major non-cardiac surgery and leading this to a characterization, and also aim to use this within a PLP towards the end of the year. And we aim to be at least part of a hybrid meeting to support a fragility fracture study-a-thon in Oslo, Norway, towards the end of the year. So if you're interested in joining, we're going to meet every 4 weeks. And our next call is going to be on the 22nd of February. And once we know who's joining, we aim to change the times to suit the whole group. And so please do get in touch with either myself or Evan if you'd like to know more.
Great, Jenny. Thank you very much. This work group was just added to that form. So if you're interested, you didn't see it before, it is there now. So you can join this work group now. Okay, we will turn it over to Martijn. Martijn has 2 to talk about. It'll start with Hades.
Sure, thanks. So hopefully most of you will be familiar with Hades, which is our set of R packages that we use in pretty much every OHDSI study. The objective of Hades is to enable the OHDSI community to perform observational research following OHDSI best practices for all our use cases by providing a cohesive set of open source analytics software. So a collection of R packages. So we've talked amongst each other and decided that these are going to be our key results, or maybe our goals for the coming year. Regular Hades-wide releases. So currently, Hades is a collection of R packages where every R package has its own release cycle. But we figured it actually would be very helpful for the community if we have every 6 months a Hades-wide snapshot of all the packages in their current state. That are basically a stable platform for everybody to work from. Our second key result is to have more user involvement. So many of the developers in Hades themselves are also users, but it's also always different if you have a user who is him or herself not a developer, who has a very different view on what is useful and what is not. And so we hope to have more user involvement, for example, by getting feedback from at least 20 users, have at least 5 champions/evangelists, so people who are super users of a specific package and can provide more in-depth feedback, and have at least 3 presentations by Hades users in our Hades meetings. We also will aim to have better roadmaps and design specifications. Hopefully these will tie into these 6-month releases, where we provide a roadmap of where we want to go in the next 6 months. And also, if we want to have new Hades packages or major changes to existing packages, that we will at least put something on paper before we start coding. In terms of stability, Patrick already mentioned this a few community meeting calls back. We want to have test servers for all the database platforms that we are supposedly supporting. Currently, we only have that for a subset, and so we can't really guarantee that our software works on those other platforms. So we want to have a full set of testing servers for that. Want to have at least half of the Hades packages use at least half of these testing servers. Not all Hades packages use the database, so that seems like a reasonable first goal. And also, we want to enforce a Hades dependency whitelist. So we only want to depend on other people's packages that are well maintained and are well tested. Next slide. I'm also helping lead the methods research work group. In this work group, we wanted to do things a little bit differently. Last time, we Last year, we had official objectives and key results where we tried to specify the research topics that we wanted to cover in a year. But, well, method research just takes a little bit longer. So we didn't want to steer that too much centrally. So instead, our objective, of course, is to do methods research. Next slide. So instead, we just set goals, more generic goals for this year. Where really we want to have the methods workgroup be sort of a place where methods research come together. And the main goal that the meetings will have, at least, is to create awareness of who is researching what methods in OHDSI, by which we mean anybody using OMOP. At the same time, we want these meetings to be a sounding board for methods research in progress. So it's not so much going to be focused on methods research that has finished, but rather when you're doing your methods research and you want to get some other people to look at it, that's hopefully what our work group can help with. Identify new methods research questions, and of course find collaborators if you want to collaborate with other people on your methods research. And so if that sounds like something you would be interested in, and you might want to either share your methods research or hear what other people are working on, please join our meetings. The next one is going to be on March 2nd. And thank you.
Great, Martijn. Thank you very much. Next up is Adam Black.
Hi, everyone. I'm Adam, and I co-lead the open source community work group with my esteemed colleague, Paul Nagy. The purpose of our work group is to promote the health and sustainability of the OHDSI open source software ecosystem, and we have 5 pillars which we've kind of been working on to define. These are developing educational materials and hosting community events for developers, maturing our governance practices informed by best practices from other open source communities, documenting our standard interfaces and processes, monitoring metrics of health and sustainability from GitHub, and then supporting our maintainers with infrastructure needs. Because one of our big events is the OHDSI DevCon, which is at the end of April, I thought we'd divide the year up into three sections instead of 4. So we have our T1 key results. And so we have 4 objectives and 4 key results we'd like to do in the first third of the year. Provide educational. So for the objective of providing educational and community events, we're going to be hosting our OHDSI DevCon April 21st of this year. So mark your calendars for that. Another objective is to train casual contributors to become active contributors and maintainers of OHDSI software. That's the Chiron program that Paul announced last year, and we started that. So in the first third of the year, we'd like to graduate our 2022 Chiron cohort and start the 2023 Chiron cohort. We want to promote comprehensive testing of all OHDSI software and all the supported database platforms. This kind of relates to one of the objectives that we have in Hades as well. So one of our key results that we'd like to commit to is documenting what we have for our testing servers publicly, and provide a transparent process for developers to request access to those servers. And then finally, a fairly big objective is going to be the formation of a technical advisory board. This is a group of senior developers and maintainers in our community that are going to kind of help guide the community around this overall OHDSI release, which includes Hades and Atlas and all of the core software that we use in OHDSI. This is going to be led by Paul Nagy and Lee Evans. And for T1 key result is simply to just really define the bounds of this group and then launch it. So if you're interested in OHDSI open source software, you have something you'd like to share with the community, or you just kind of want to connect with other people who are passionate about open source software, please join our bi-weekly calls on the workgroup calls. Love to see you there. Thanks.
Great, Adam. Thank you very much. Final for today is the OHDSI steering group. Patrick.
Our speaking on behalf of George Ripsack and the rest of our steering work group. For those who are not aware, we have a steering work group that tries to take a light touch on just helping our community move forward. Our steering work group's purpose is to support our community and its leaders in collaboratively generating the evidence that promotes better health decisions and better care by identifying, organizing, and guiding collaborative activities, facilitating communications across the community, providing input to operations for the OHDSI Central Coordinating Center, and building consensus on the vision for where the OHDSI community should go together. And so this is a work group that meets on Fridays and is open to anybody who'd like to help shape the future of where OHDSI goes. What are we focusing on specifically this year? We have 3 objectives that we've agreed to as a work group. The first is to empower work groups to contribute to collaboratively generating the evidence that promotes better health decisions and better cares. So what are we actually trying to do? Well, what we're doing right now is part of our accomplishment of the steering work group. We're trying to ensure that all of the active work groups have a defined purpose in OKRs that are communicated to the broader community. And this is really for the purposes of encouraging all of you to find areas where you can contribute to the community. The second thing is that we will be holding another work group leader summit to make sure that there's appropriate communication that's taking place across work groups, and we'll be holding that later this year, or later this quarter. Our second objective as a steering work group is to create collaboration activities that encourage collaborative generation and dissemination of evidence that promotes better health decisions and better care. There's several activities that the steering committee's been eagerly focused on. The first is to schedule the OHDSI 2023 Global Symposium, which you've all heard is now going to take place October 20th through 22nd, and more details will be coming out about that. So we've already achieved at least the part of that key result about a date, and you'll hear about the location shortly. And the second key result is for us to coordinate 2 community activities, and with the goal of having at least 30 collaborators participating. We're in the midst of one of them right now, which is Phenotype February, which you are going to hear more from Gautam and Naza about the progress we're making there. And the second that you heard from Jody Ann about is our Sisyphus Challenge, which is kicking off now with seeking your input, but will continue for multiple months as we do a network study together. The third key result is for us to have a community resource that's published and updated at least once a month with an updated list of collaboration opportunities. And so you've seen Craig kicking off these meetings and trying to showcase some of those opportunities to the community. And that's a deliberate effort that we're trying to maintain within the steering work group. Our last objective, being led by Andrew Williams, is to draft a strategy for a general purpose OHDSI asset library. And the key result that we hope to have by the end of this quarter is a document that lays out a strategy for the resource requirements to build such an asset library. So for anybody who's interested in joining our steering work group to help shape and guide where the community is, we invite you to come join us on Fridays and be part of shaping this community more broadly. Thank you.